some of the greatest hits from classical music will be featured on our 5th classics concert, which we are titling it Heroes and Legends. Many of you who, even if you're not familiar with classical music, specifically, I'm sure you are familiar with William Tell Overture by Rossini, aka The Lone Ranger. That's the finale of the overture that many of you probably grew up hearing this music. So we're actually opening the concert with that. Rossini wrote this, Italian composer Rossini, he wrote the opera William Tell to tell the story of these Swiss villagers in the 13th century who were at the time were occupied the Austrians. So this is really a music, it's an opera about fight for freedom and fighting for independence. And of course, there's, as with many operas, there's of course a love story. It's really also a story about family bond. Many of you might be familiar with the story of Tell having to shoot an apple with a bow that was sitting on the top of his son's head. And that was a challenge that was issued by the governor at the time, and he succeeded, of course. And so that's a legendary story, of course. In the second half of the program, to go along with the Heroes and Legends theme, I'm very excited to perform with this orchestra Beethoven's Third Symphony, which is entitled Eroica, or Hero, or Heroic. Beethoven actually famously wrote this piece initially wanting to title it and dedicate it to Napoleon. This was Beethoven, of course, right at the turn of the century, in the very early part of the 19th century. He viewed Napoleon as a symbol of change and a new system, really. And so Beethoven, like with many artists around Europe at the time, they really supported Napoleon. It all changed. There's a famous story when Beethoven, he had the score manuscript of this symphony, which is epic symphony, really, of magnificent scope. And upon hearing the news, the story goes, upon hearing the news that Napoleon crowned himself an emperor, Beethoven became enraged. He thought, oh, he's just like every one of those tyrants. So he famously took a pen and he crossed over the dedication so violently that actually it tore a hole in the page, and the ink bled through to the page underneath it, actually. So he decided to simply call the symphony Eroica, or Heroic. Sandwiched between these two pieces, dealing with the issue of heroism in Heroes and Legends, is a piece by Mozart. There's a special significance to having a Mozart piece on this particular program, because Mozart's birthday happened to be on January 27th, 1756. So we're really celebrating his birthday 250 some odd years later or so. And this weekend, featuring a piece that, in the spirit of the music, I think it goes hand in hand with the Beethoven and the Rossini. And it's the Piano Concerto No. 20, featuring a friend of mine and a wonderful pianist from Croatia named Martina Firiak. And Martina is going to be here. I first worked with Martina a couple years ago with another orchestra, and she's one of those musicians who is so spontaneous, so much fun to really work with, because in some ways you don't know what you expect at a performance. There's a sense of freedom and spontaneity. The Piano Concerto No. 20 by Mozart, Mozart, of course, was a famous prodigy as a composer, also a very famous prodigy as a pianist as well. A lot of the piano concertos that Mozart wrote, he premiered. Playing the solo part and directing the orchestra from the keyboard, including this particular one. But what's interesting, though, is that most of the Mozart's piano concertos are in a major key, and they have this sense of, there's more this sense of celebratory or festive feel, and the sense of elegance, really, to the music. This is one of the few piano concertos, No. 20, is the one that he set in minor key. And it's actually, I think of it almost as well as his Don Giovanni, the opera, really basically foreshadowing the world of Beethoven decades later, really kind of foreshadowing the Romanticism, the Romantic era in music, where the sort of, rather than the sense of proportion and elegance that was really favored during Mozart's lifetime, with Beethoven, with Schubert, Brahms, Berlioz, all these composers coming up later on, of course Rossini as well, there was this sense of really digging deep in the music and favoring the sense of drama, exploring sort of the raw emotions and maybe even darker side of life, really. This is really a concert that I think will be perfect for what I would think, who I think to be sort of casual classical music listeners. You don't have to really know much at all about classical music to really get the visceral impact of this music, especially with Beethoven and the Rossini as well. But it's really, as I mentioned, some of the greatest hits of the symphonic repertoire. And I'm just so very excited to focus on these particular pieces in January with my friends and colleagues here with the Spokane Symphony Orchestra. We've been working together for 9 years, and I feel like we've established this level of rapport that we can understand each other at a deeper level, and hopefully we can bring that deeper love and deeper level of understanding to these particular pieces to share with you as well.